if you want to do something special, just go start applying these very basic success principles and start small and just start implementing them into your life. Write your goals down once a week and let it start to become a habit until it becomes a habit that you're doing every single day. Mm-hmm. The visualizations, the way that you think about things, cutting out all the negative influences in your life.
This is the Just Real Quick podcast, where we discuss how to succeed in the world of sales through confidence, discipline, and consistency. Are you ready to be intentional about creating more opportunities that lead to sales? Tune into this episode right now for the latest insights and strategies that will take your sales game to the next level. I'm your host, Jefferson K. Rogers.
Welcome back to another episode of Just Real Quick. Jefferson Rogers. Today in the studio, I got my boy Drayk, one of the newest directors here at JKR Windows. He's got an incredible story. We're going to have him share a little bit today about some mindset stuff, some of his habits and disciplines that he's got in his life that have helped him advance in this company so fast and that could probably help you advance if you're willing to put in the work. Welcome to the studio, bro.
Thanks, Jefferson. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, dude, this is exciting.
Yeah.
So I think, still probably that a lot of people in the company don't know that we're family.
No.
I had even like Andres the other day. He didn't know that I was the one that brought you in.
Oh, seriously?
I was like, where did you think he came from?
Just showed up out of nowhere.
Showed up, just excited.
Yeah.
Do something special with his life.
That's right.
But yeah, dude, so we're family. So your wife, I remember when she was born, because I grew up with her dad. Mm-hmm. He was I think he's 6 years older than me, but he was the oldest of all of my cousins. And we grew up just like family reunions and cool stuff that we had going on as youngsters. And so I was there like when she was born. So it's so crazy how old I am that like my little cousin that I watched be born is married and I'm sitting here talking to her husband.
And she just had a kid,
and
too.
You guys have your own baby.
Yeah.
I don't even feel old, dude. I don't even feel old.
But you don't look old, Jefferson. You look great.
But I'm getting old. So, dude, it's such a cool story how, we got connected and how we started talking, how you ended up here and how this has all progressed and it's came about. And now you've flown through all of the ranks to become a director and now running your own pod and have an incredible amount of success and like notoriety within the company that everybody knows Drayk and the man that you are and the presence that you are and the success that you're having. So what everybody wants to know is like, what are some of the things like your mindset and the drive that you have that helped you accomplish this so fast?
Well, I think the biggest thing was just knowing exactly what I wanted when I got here. I think even the first time I remember sitting right across this table from you in our first, interview.
Yeah.
You invited me in. We just chatted it up for a minute and you kind of asked me where I saw myself going. And I said, I want to be closing deals. Mm-hmm. That's what I want to be doing. I want to go in. I want to sit with the homeowner. I want to be closing deals. So I think the biggest thing was like having that roadmap and just knowing where I wanted to go. Mm-hmm. That way, when I came in, I knew exactly what steps I needed to take, which roads I needed to travel on, and made it a lot easier to get there. I think it's kind of silly to get into your car, start driving without knowing where you're going, right? You 100%. Always want a roadmap.
100%.
So.
And I think we have it pretty clearly defined on what that roadmap looks like for everybody.
Easy.
But then I think one of the things that also separates successful people is they don't leave anything to chance. Like you didn't leave anything to chance. You wanted to make sure that you knew all the answers to those questions. Like as clearly as we had defined it, you were asking questions. You were very forward. You were asking for feedback and for criticism and what can I do better and sending recordings. And you were doing everything in your power within your experience to make sure that this was going to become a reality.
Of course. Yeah, of course, man. I think it'd be silly not to.
Yeah.
But
it's just not common. Like it's so normal to you.
Right.
Because you're driven and you're just like, you want to do something special and you want to be Father's Day just went by and like, it's like this, it's such a cool opportunity to be a father and to lead an example and to be a husband and like prove to your wife that you're worthy of her and that you're a hard worker and you're going to deliver on your promises. And it's just like it comes naturally for you, just because of who you are, your background. It doesn't for everybody else. And some people don't have the background, the upbringing, the life experiences and the examples in their life.
Sure.
So there's a unique combination of things that have created all those things within you. And what's cool is we have an opportunity as leaders and people that have some of these innate abilities to help other people that didn't maybe have those kind of backgrounds to then take some of those examples and the things that work for other people and then apply them. And that's what this podcast is all about. It's sharing for those other people that are looking for the edge and what can I apply? What are the things that I may be missing from my life experiences that I can learn from somebody else and accelerate the process for me?
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a pretty cool opportunity.
It really is. Yeah. And I think you said it best when you said that everything with JKR, one of the biggest things I think that helped me with my success here is how laid out everything is. Like there's no guessing how to get somewhere. It's all laid out in front of you, right? It's like, okay, you're a coordinator, get 15 cells, and then you can start working towards being a junior director. And then once you're a junior, you go through the director training, get 5 self-gens, and then you can start doing lead genning. And then you start doing it that way, and it's so simple.
And it played out pretty much exactly like that for you.
Yeah, I think by the time I started actually training as a director, I had about 35 cells
Did you
under
really?
my belt. Yeah. And I think that has nothing to do with people dragging their feet. I was just selling a lot. I was setting a lot of appointments.
Just focused. But you know what? That's such a valuable time in your position here, because now you've proven yourself. You were one of the top performers. Like you had this record, like this record-breaking month within your grasp, and then you had a cancellation.
Yeah,
but it was the perfect storm. Like everybody heard about it. Like if you would have broke that record, it probably wouldn't have been as notable as having it and then losing it.
Yeah.
Because we talked about that for weeks afterwards.
I felt it for sure.
I know you felt it.
It hurt my feelings a little bit, but I think one of the biggest things that separates like high performers from low performers is being able to overcome things like that, right? That ruined my day, bro. I think you could probably see it 100%. When it happened. Yeah. Like we went out there together to talk to that customer, but it wrecked me. It ruined my whole day. But, having the good fortune of being able to spend a lot of one-on-one time with Blake Norton, I think that was huge in helping my mindset, because he had a heart to heart with me that day, and he was just like, don't be a bitch, man. Like you can't let this drag you down. If you let this one thing drag you down, you're not going to make it. Like you got to get over stuff like this. It's just a speed bump. You're going to look back on this a year from now, and you're going to laugh at it.
Yeah, isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Because in the moment, it feels like it's so heavy.
Oh, it's like a dagger in the heart.
Like it's like you got this big pit in your stomach, and it's taken all your attention. And I'm sure you felt that in other areas of your life too.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Like there's all of these moments that we get faced with that we get to choose how we respond. And, a lot of people don't respond well, and they use it as an excuse. But, having the right people in your corner and the right environment and this culture to be a part of, that's like, you got to have a short memory. You're going to have lots of ups and downs, lots of rejection, hard times, challenges. You got to overcome all of them and use it as this lesson to help you get better at it next time. Because I'm telling you, after years and years of going through those things and like the challenges that come in business and in leadership, those never go away, bro. No. Like they get worse. The pressure is worse. Like the repercussions are worse. And so it's heavier. So you get better, you get more resilient at overcoming those things, but they never go away. And every single one of them, you get to choose how you respond, and whether you get down on yourself and how many days or hours you get down on yourself, or how you're going to take it and think about it and just immediately start to recognize that I'm supposed to learn something from this. There's
Definitely.
an opportunity here. I'm supposed to learn something. As terrible as this feels, I'm going to come out the other side of this better, more equipped for whatever challenges you can throw at me.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that was a really good way of saying that.
Mm-hmm.
I think if the best thing that you can do in those situations is just take it as a learning experience.
Yeah.
Right? How do I learn from this? And realistically, it's what that taught me, because that was a big deal, man. I was gonna break a record that month, and it was during the kickoff too, so I was gonna be the highest earner during the kickoff. So
That's right.
it was a huge compound of things that just came together, and it was like so awesome for a minute, and then when it canceled, it seemed like it all just fell apart. But I feel like being able to persevere and overcome that, and be able to just kind of brush it off, be mad about it, be upset about it for half an hour, whatever. Let yourself feel those emotions and get over it.
Yep.
And the next time something like that happens, it's going to be that much easier to look back on the past experiences, and
it's easier to recognize the next time.
absolutely, yeah.
Like the more times you go through it, you can feel it coming.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, there's a lesson coming. There's an opportunity. What am I supposed to learn?
That's right.
I can feel the pit in my stomach building up.
That's right.
You just get better at it. But it's the difference in like becoming great and accomplishing big things with your life. Like if you don't have adversity, if you don't have challenges to overcome, if you don't have those pits in your stomach, how are you going to grow?
You won't.
You don't.
You'll never will. Yeah.
And that's what I've encouraged people to do is you've got to look for these opportunities for growth and uncomfortable things to get through. Of all kinds, like with relationships, with communication, with leadership, with sales in your career. Like if there's no challenge, if things are just easy, smooth sailing, you're gonna top out. You're gonna only be able to offer so much value.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of these other things are affected by that, like your relationships, your ability to make income. So it's this thing that I've been focused on, and it's challenging, it's tough, and it's uncomfortable a lot of the times. But if you've got this focus and this ability to be comfortable being uncomfortable every step of the way and just be focusing on these next opportunities to embrace that, you will continue to have an upward trajectory.
I agree.
It's scary because it's so easy to get complacent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, who doesn't want just the easiest life ever? Right?
It's tempting.
It is. Yeah, it is tempting. And I think that's what, everyone kind of thinks that would be the best way to live life. But I think it would be kind of boring. It's boring. You're not growing. I don't know. I was watching this, it's kind of a weird analogy, but there's this nature documentary I was watching where it's like either a crab or a lobster when they're shedding their outer skin. Mm-hmm. It's like total discomfort for weeks. They're just uncomfortable. They're too big to be fitting in there. And then once they shed it, they've got this beautiful new skin. And it's like you've got to live in that discomfort in order to persevere through it.
Yeah.
And then appreciate what comes after it.
100%. And there is a difference between living in that discomfort in a productive way and living in it in just like a, sorrow and wallowing in your misery.
Absolutely.
Because there's people that do that too, and they don't get anything from it. Mm-hmm. And it's all about just how you respond to these opportunities. There's such amazing opportunities. And some people don't see it, and they just feel sorry for themselves, and they get stuck, and they just repeat the same destructive victim behaviors.
Yeah. And I watched this thing. I saw this thing once, and you might know where this came from. I'm probably going to botch this, but it's basically said that your success is determined way more by the way that you react to things than what actually happens to you. Mm-hmm. So if something happens to you, it's only your success is only about 10% determined by that thing happened to you, and about 90% determined by the way that you react to it.
I've read that in several books, like different variations of it. I'm actually just finishing up a book by Urban Meyer right now. It's called Above the line. And he talks about above the line behavior and below the line behavior. And there's this, I can't remember what the equation is, but it's like the event plus your response equals the outcome.
Absolutely.
So, and he teaches this to his football teams. Like if there's something terrible that happens to you, the outcome is going to be determined by your response. And you could have an amazing outcome and go through the difficult times as long as you respond well. And instead of being reactive and emotional, you're calm and you're put together and you recognize things and you respond, and it determines your outcome. So it's relevant in every area of your life. Like we've got all these little micro opportunities with customers, with our family, our loved ones, even just with like the people that we work with. There's these little opportunities, these things that create an emotional response. And with less experience, we just react and we're emotional and we say dumb shit. And it's, it affects the way that everything else goes, like relationships and how people view you.
Yeah.
And the more experience you have and the more that you pay attention and care how people view you, and you respond tactfully and regulated, you get better outcomes.
Absolutely. 100%.
So yeah, we're getting away from, I always like going into this deep, like,
That's okay.
like family and fatherhood and opportunity. But I'm also curious, like you had a little bit of a background in sales.
Yeah.
And,
a little bit, yeah.
Great work ethic, a lot of things that you brought to the table when you came here. But for you to have the kind of success that you had, was there, what do you attribute it to? Like, where does it come from? Is it all like just work ethic and drive and putting in the hours? Was it like this natural innate ability to sell and, convince people? What do you think it was?
So I think it was definitely, I don't think it was one single thing. I think so. Oprah has this quote. She says, "Success is when preparation meets opportunity." Right?
Yeah.
So I think that throughout my entire life, I've been preparing for this opportunity. I've had some hard jobs. Mm-hmm. I've been a cook at Texas Roadhouse. I've been a landscaper. Wow. I've been a block mason. I've been a drafter at a cabinet shop, and then I've been like a foreman at that same cabinet shop. Yeah. And I think that all those things helped me build a really strong work ethic, just being able to go in and do hard work for long periods of time without even batting an eye at it. And then I also had, a little bit of experience with sales. And I just have I've always had kind of this natural social butterfly aspect to me, where I just love talking to people. I love talking to people. I love getting to know people. And I think everybody that I talk to, in the back of my mind, whether I like it or not, I'm always trying to relate to them. I'm always trying to make them my friend. Yeah. Like, how can I end this conversation with them being my buddy, and calling me up next week and wanting to go out for a beer or something like that. And, with that combined with my experience just working my ass off, and then also the few little sales gigs that I have had, I worked with a company out of Lehigh that did awnings and pergolas and pavilions and things like that. Very, very similar model. Not quite as laid out as JKR's. They don't have scripts, right? It's all very loosey-goosey, go out there and
just take your natural abilities.
That's right.
Go point them in that direction.
That's right. Yeah. And it just wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't really a good fit. They were going through some changes at the corporate level. And so
it was cool exposure.
It was great exposure.
Like this is like a new awareness that you have. Like there's so many possibilities that came from that. Like this new belief that you have in yourself, like all these possibilities that were created by that, which, all of these little things that we do throughout our experience working and being around other people are influencing us and helping us believe in ourselves at a new level. So if you hadn't had gone through that experience, you may not have been open when we started talking about JKR Windows.
I don't think I would have because like it kind of opened up. I think we all kind of have this idea of door-to-door sales as being like the bottom of the barrel, right? I'm guilty of that for sure. But when I was exposed to that, and even with how like, just, I don't want to say unorganized, but with how unstructured their system was, and still with how much success they're finding with it, selling things that people don't need, like
it's like it's a want, it's a luxury kind of thing.
It's a luxury, 100%. Like pavilion in your backyard's not gonna cut your energy bill down 40%. You know what I mean? It's something that people want, and they're still have built this entire business off of this model where they're going door to door, and then they're sending a director in to close the deal, and these people are making asinine amounts of money. And I think that's really what opened me up to the idea of it in general, as being a possibility. Like this is actually something that people do and can make a living doing.
And it's not like they're a bunch of sleazeballs doing it.
No.
Like the guys are making great incomes. They're raising families. They're respectable people.
They're professionals.
And they're professionals.
Yeah.
And there is a lot of misconceptions about door-to-door and sales, period. Like I'm sure we grew up around a bunch of blue collar.
Oh, yeah.
Like hard-nosed, redneck type of dudes.
Yes.
Never caught them in a million years doing sales.
No.
So we heard all of the stigmas, all of the negative statements about greasy salespeople growing up. And it led me to, I was never going to be a salesman. I didn't think I could ever do it. I had such a bad impression about salespeople from everybody that I had been convinced by.
Of course.
Until I started seeing it for the first time. Like, these are great dudes. Like, they're not greasy salespeople. They're not dishonest. They're offering great products, and they're educating people. And my real first exposure was in investments and insurance. And it was a very reputable company. I believed in the product. I bought the products, and I started hanging around this type of culture and this environment of people that were all encouraging each other, and there was recognition, and they're reading books, and there's all this positivity. It's like, I've never been a part of anything like that. You go on a construction site or doing landscaping, and there's a bunch of like negative, chain smoking, tobacco chewing. It's not a very good environment.
You get scrutinized for reading a book.
Yeah.
Call you a Nancy and kick you out the door just for reading a book.
It was a big eye opener for me. It's like, I may get some shit from everybody that I know, but I want to have something like that in my life.
Yeah.
That type of environment, the personal development. Before I had started being around those types of people, I had never read a book. Like, literally never read a book, never did homework. Last book I read was maybe like a Goosebumps book. And it was like the furthest thing from the radar for me.
Yeah.
And then it was just like this whole new world. Like, this is a real thing. Like, such great opportunity for me to develop myself as a better human being. I wanted to be a leader. I knew I was like capable of so much more, but not without having an environment to be a part of that could help me with that path.
Of course.
And that's what I love about, what we've created here is this training and development company that has created so many cool success stories, yours included.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I've heard this 100 times, but it's a personal development company disguised as a window company. Right? I mean, we're all just out here developing ourselves, and all the new guys that come in and stick it out because they can deal with a little bit of rejection. It's so much fun to see them grow. Yeah. So much fun. I've got this new guy on my pod, Huntington, and he's killing it, man. He's doing amazing. So good out there, and he's so driven, and it's this company, it's so easy to get bought in. I think that's the best part is it's so easy to see that what we're doing is not just making money, we're helping people too. Yeah. And I think that really, my eyes really opened up to that when I became a director, because you see the excitement on these homeowners' faces after they just spent 25 grand on Windows. They're like, I'm thrilled about this.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is, dude. That's what got me excited in the beginning. And it's what changed my mind about sales. Like, I was seeing these guys do it. They didn't seem like anything special.
Mm-hmm.
They were making great money. And it started to like plant some seeds in me. I was like, if those guys can do it, I'm pretty sure that if I could find the right combination of products to offer and help to get me, cleaned up and presentable and able to present, I could do this. And then the first time I saw a presentation and he banged on that glass and their eyes lit up and they're smiling over there and they're like, honey, we need this.
Yeah.
I was like, what? It's like, it's this easy? I was
can do
blown
that.
away, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, I can do this.
Yeah.
It changed my life forever. And it's so cool to see people that have these same epiphanies. Like, we've got an environment, we've got a product, we've got the fulfillment and something that they can believe in this entire system that we've created. And if we can get them at the right time, we can change their life.
Absolutely.
Change their family's life, change the trajectory of their entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you, to a new guy coming in, maybe in a similar position as you were, that hasn't been exposed to sales, and maybe they've got a background in working in restaurants, or they're a plumber or electrician, or they've been doing construction. What advice would you give to somebody coming into sales for the first time?
Well, I think the biggest thing is know why you're doing it, right? I think that was a huge motivator for me, was my why, my reason. I wanted to be the only money maker in my house. Mm-hmm. I don't want my wife to work. I want her to be a stay-at-home mom. We already knew that we were going to have a kid. And so that was a huge driving factor for me.
And that's a decision you guys have made together.
Absolutely. Yeah. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm going to be the money maker.
You just stay home, baby.
Exactly.
I know you want to work, but you just stay home.
Yeah.
And that wasn't like that for me either.
Oh, of course not.
It was a decision we made together.
Exactly.
If we're going to start a family, I don't want my kids being raised at the daycare.
No. One of us are going to raise our kid, right? They're going to have a parent at home.
How is your son doing anyways?
Dude, he's cute as shit. He's so damn cute.
Right now they grow so fast, dude.
Oh, it's crazy. We're looking at pictures from 2 weeks ago, and he's like unrecognizable, just from like 2 weeks ago, man. Yeah. He's like 8 weeks old now.
Yeah.
And
amazing.
every couple days, man, it's like he's a completely different little human, growing a couple inches and
getting all these new things that he's doing.
Yeah. Yeah, he's starting to like giggle now. So it went from no facial expressions to like starting to get smiles to getting like the biggest smiles you've ever seen. And now he's like starting to giggle a little bit. And oh my gosh, it's the craziest thing. I never would have thought that that I could feel that way about another human being. You know what I mean?
100%, dude.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and being a dad to little girls especially. Like I'm a dad to a boy, but my little girls, it was something else, dude. Just like completely melt you. Mm-hmm. Like you're gonna, all in the same moment. Like you're so protective and you love this human being with everything everything that you've got, and like you would give your life for this person. It's like you get all these crazy emotions that happen when you start to have kids. Mm-hmm. It's such a cool opportunity to be able to mold these little human beings also into productive members of society.
Definitely.
Badass human beings.
Definitely. And I think it feels a lot better knowing that you're going to mold this person into the person that you are today if you feel good about yourself. Mm-hmm. Right? So I think that's a big part of the why. Yeah. So going back to the why, we got sidetracked there. No, that's okay. But that's what I think separates people in sales is it's not about the money. Like from the outside looking in, it's just like, that guy just must be money motivated. Right. That's not even a fraction of what drives us. Not even close. Mm-hmm. From the outside in, maybe it's like this, assumption that people make, but you have to have a strong why for you to put in the amount of hours and commitment that I have, that I know you have into developing ourselves
and to, provide for our families, you got to have a strong why. You got to have it in front of you all the time.
Oh yeah.
And it has to be glaring, because otherwise, like all of this, all the challenges, all the rejection, all the things that we have to overcome, if you don't have that in front of you, and if it's not strong, it'll derail you in a heartbeat.
Easily.
And we get to see it all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, so Blake actually told this to me. He said, your why, you should be able to, as soon as somebody asks you what your why is, you should be able to say it without hesitation, right? Within the first second of somebody asking you what your why is, you should be able to tell them what your why is. That's how, like, it should be at the top of your brain, at the tip of your tongue. Like, you should always be thinking about and know exactly what your why is in fine detail, because otherwise it's really easy to get sidetracked and distracted. And when you have a $50,000 cancellation, it's a lot easier to just give up, right? If you don't know why you're doing it, it's really easy to give up.
Yeah. And it's not like, it's kind of hard to define for some people that haven't been able to tap into that yet, that aren't married, that don't have a wife and a kid and these big goals and dreams and aspirations to become something special. So we see a lot of younger kids come in here, and, understandably, they don't have this big why yet.
Sure.
And they're trying to search for it. And they muster up enough to go have a great week. And then, a bad day or a bad conversation even sometimes can derail them. So what do you feel like if you don't have it already built in, and it's not just like ingrained in you, and you've got all this, these big responsibilities hanging over you that create the why? How do you build it? How do you create it?
I think that's where you should start, right? Obviously, that's if you're coming into a position like this, that should be your foundation for even coming to a position like this. Mm-hmm. You should focus every minute of your time on building your why. Mm-hmm. I think that's a huge part of finding success in a position like this, is knowing what your why is. So I would say, for a long time, like journaling, visualizing, and meditating, right? So like you want to be able to see yourself and feel yourself in the position that you want to be in, regardless of how far down the road it is.
Yeah. Do you write your goals down?
Yeah. Every morning.
Are you reading a book right now?
Yeah. So I'm reading Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Love that book.
That was we started reading it on our pod. Actually, that was Huntington's suggestion. Yeah, I said, what book do we want to read? He said that's the one that he wanted to read. So I ordered them on Amazon, and then we would read it every night, talk about it every morning. And have you read that book yet?
I've read it twice and listened to it also.
So the audio book there's some really good commentary in there too.
It's like a podcast book.
Yeah, it is.
It's amazing.
Yeah, they like break apart and then have that dialogue with the reader and with David Goggins. So I'm actually reading it and listening to it. So I'll like follow along in the book, just so I can get that commentary, right?
100%.
So I feel like that's super valuable too.
I like that. It's like an experiential audible.
Totally. Yeah.
I've never read one, or I've never listened to one like that.
No, me neither. And that's why, like, when I first started listening, because I read the first 3 chapters without listening to it. And then I was driving home from Kingman, and I was like, I still want to get this, So I picked up the audiobook, and it blew me away. I was like, I have to listen to this.
Yeah.
Also,
his second book is good, but I think it's hard to compete with that. Can't Hurt Me.
Oh no,
such a great book.
It's like shockingly good, and it's a tearjerker too, man. Like realizing that there's people out there actually going through stuff like that in their lives and being able to overcome it and become a David Goggins.
Yeah.
And I can't help but feel like kind of a bitch, dude. Like honestly, like
We've had it pretty good.
Yeah, we've had it really good, man.
Compared to what some people have to go through. Like, that's their circumstances.
Absolutely.
He was just a kid, like really no other choice but to be there in that environment and to either adapt or, I mean, he could have very well just died.
That's right. Yeah.
Just gave in and, folded.
Or he could have, gone that path, gone to the streets.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
used it as an excuse.
Yep. Become kind of have that victim mentality where it's like, I am the way I am because of my circumstances.
Yeah.
Like, he kind of switched it the other way. Like, I am the great person that I am because of what I've had to overcome.
It's about the response. He had the events
Absolutely.
that happened in his life, and he responded in a way that created an incredible outcome. And I've talked to a couple of guys that know him, and it's interesting people's perspective on him. Like, they want to bag on him. It's like, what?
It's their own insecurities.
It's just these insecurities. And it's like they maybe had less to help mold them. And it's like the interesting way that people just are jealous, or I don't know.
They're trying to justify their own position in the world.
Yeah.
Right. So I think that people try tearing other people down to make themselves feel better.
Yeah.
I think that's the only reason anybody tears. And he talks about that in the book.
He does.
He talks about how when someone's coming after you, even if what they're saying is true, like the only reason that they're coming after you is because of their own insecurities. Is to make themselves feel better. They have to tear someone else down.
So we got started down this path talking about goals and journaling and reading because we were trying to help our listeners establish a way, if they don't have it built in like we did. At that stage in our life when we started to use it, it wasn't always built in for me. But when I decided to start using it, I had a strong why, and I was able to define it very clearly. But one way that I had started to define it was I was hanging around great people. I had great influences. I was reading books for the first time in my life, just exposing myself to new knowledge and perspective and changing the way that I thought. And then I started writing my goals down.
Yep.
And all these are very important things to me that if you just dreaming about and thinking about, it's never as powerful as if you're writing it down as if it's already happened and you're visualizing it. And it's like on a very regular basis. So it's always at the top of your mind.
Yep.
And sometimes like multiple times a day when I'm going through tough times, you've got to write it down multiple times.
Yep.
Like, this is my why. This is why I'm putting myself through this. Nobody else would put themselves through this unless they had these types of things that they're going for. So you can create it out of thin air. Like if you don't have it right now, start reading, start writing your goals down, and start creating this vision for your future and putting these targets in front of you that are going to help you overcome and adapt to all the challenges that are going to come as a result of moving in the direction of big, crazy ass goals.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think it's a great place to start, just by writing down your goals, visualizing and kind of feeling the feelings of being in that moment while you're visualizing your goals, right? While you're visualizing what you want, I think one of the biggest things is getting very specific with your goals. If you want a house, how big of a house do you want? Where do you want it? What's the address, right? How many bedrooms? What kind of carpet do you have in that house? And then you visualize those things and you feel those emotions of walking through that house, right?
100%.
You can use your imagination.
Where do you remember hearing that for the first time? Like that way of thinking about goals and visualization and creating things.
So I was like senior year in high school. I was having a really bad, just like having a weird depressed time of my life. And I had a buddy, his name's Jackson Bithell. Yeah. Call him Fuego because he's a redhead. So yeah. Yeah, he's still a really good buddy of mine. He's actually about to have a kid too. So we kind of grew up together, and he had just started reading this book called The Secret. I don't know if you've heard of that book or not. I'm sure you have, but that's where it all kind of started for me. was with that book. I read that book in 2 nights and just blew through it. It was so exciting to me.
In high school?
In high school, yeah.
Oh.
Yep, senior year of high school. It was like tail end of my senior year. And I think we all, especially around that age, we are having like an identity crisis. You know, who am I? What do I want to do? I'm almost out of high school. What do
all
I
of
do
these
now?
responsibilities are about to hit.
Exactly. And you don't want to let the people around you down. You don't want to let yourself down. So you're kind of putting a lot of pressure on yourself to be this magnificent person without a plan or a strategy to get there. Yeah. Right. And so I think that single action of reading that book for the first time changed my entire thought process, changed the way that I thought about life, about, you know, it's not just, life isn't just, it's not all just fate, right? You kind of create your own fate.
You do.
I think there's a lot of things that happen to you that you can't control, but you can control the way that you react to those things. Right. And so I think that was the start to it. And then I think her name's Rhonda Burns. She recommended a couple books like The Science of Getting Rich, and then Think and Grow Rich, and then How to Win Friends and Influence People. So those 3 books kind of compound on what she talked about.
Yeah. And then you went and read those ones too?
So I haven't read How to Win Friends and Influence People, but I have read The Science of Getting Rich 4 or 5 times. And then Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. I've read that one time. So that's actually the next book that I want to bring onto the pod.
Which one?
Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's a really good book.
100%.
And it kind of, what I like about that book is it talks a lot about visualization and strategies behind it and how to make the best of it
and being intentional.
Absolutely.
So there's another book that Napoleon Hill wrote that's called Outwitting the Devil.
Okay.
You ever read that one?
I haven't. I haven't even heard of that one.
Such a good book, dude. So the thing about Outwitting the Devil was it wasn't released until like 2008.
Really?
And of course he died like 1940 or something.
A long time ago.
Long time ago. Or it may have been after that, but that's when some of his books were coming out, was 1930s, 1940s. This was a book that he had the manuscript, and it was so controversial and so kind of just like out of its element within that time period that his family was scared to death to like, show it to anybody. Like, you can't fucking show this to anybody, man. This sounds like you're crazy. He's basically having a conversation with the devil.
No joke.
No joke. Like and it's been a little bit since I've read it, but it was like he was literally this mastermind concept that he stuck by. He would have these relationships with people from the past and with the devil. Like, he would have these conversations with them, and he wrote an entire book about this conversation that he had with the devil, and the devil explaining to him how he controls 95% of the population and these little tactics that he uses. And one of the things he talks about is drifting versus being intentional.
Sure.
And that 95% of people just drift through life. You know, it's the easy way, it's comfortable, and they just drift through life aimlessly, and they become average and ordinary.
Absolutely.
And then the other 5%, some of them are at a higher scale, some are at a little bit lower scale, but the other 5% are the people that have developed an ability to be intentional.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's just the little aspects of their life. Sometimes the ultra successful people are intentional with everything that they do. But if you want to do something special, pick up these books, expose yourself to the information, to the greats of all time that have, written about all of these success principles and the things that create that you can apply. Like even these guys that were from the early 1900s, Earl Nightingale, Dale Carnegie, Andrew Carnegie is one of the big businessmen, and he is the one that inspired Napoleon Hill.
Really?
To to start writing all those books. He was interviewing all the most successful people of his time. And Andrew Carnegie challenged him to spend the rest of his life finding and sharing all of the success principles that he was going to teach him.
And he did.
And he became somebody incredible. Like he maybe wasn't as big as he is now in his own time because his information was so timeless. Mm. But you've got access to people still living and people who have been dead for years. If you want to do something special with your life, it's all out there for you.
Yeah.
You just got to go be intentional and put the time in and the effort and just quit drifting throughout life, just letting shit happen to you. There is going to be things that happen to you that you don't have control of, but for the most part, you have so much more control than you think you do for the outcome and the possibilities in your life.
100%. Yeah. I think you have control of the way that you react to those things, and that's what's going to create the outcome. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's kind of funny. I was listening to a song by Kenny Chesney.
Yeah.
It's called Better Boat. And
I don't know. I bet I know it if I heard it.
Yeah, I'll bet. It's a really, really good song, but there's a part in there where he said, "Got to ride the waves I can't control." Right. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the things that I struggled with a lot, was trying to have control over everything. And there's some things that you just have to kind of ride the wave, and that maybe that's your reaction to the certain instance instead of trying to fight against it. Sometimes you just gotta ride the wave and understand that you can't control every aspect of your life. You can't control everything that's going to happen to you, but you can control the way that you're going to react to it. And I think that was a huge help for me too, is just kind of letting go of some of those things. Used to be kind of a control freak, just if I can't control everything, nothing's going to be perfect.
Yeah. That spends a ton of energy.
It does.
That you could be focusing on other things.
Absolutely. Like building your vision for the future and being very intentional about how you compose yourself and the type of future that you want for yourself, and another thing with being intentional is, being very, very specific on what you want out of life. Mm. And that's another thing that Napoleon Hill talks about, is just being very, very specific. What is it that you want? And I find myself, like, especially when I'm driving around, I drive a lot now.
Yeah.
Right. So just going to these new areas, and that's probably where I find myself, I don't know, that might sound bad, but that's where I find myself visualizing the most,
No, I love that, dude.
So when I'm driving.
It's like, what other time do you have where you're completely disconnected and you can just be in your own thoughts?
None.
Visualize. It's a very valuable time for me.
Absolutely.
To be able to drive and disconnect and just be in my thoughts and visualizing and coming up with ideas. Mm-hmm. And it kind of is bad because I'm also like writing notes and shit while I'm driving.
Me too.
And I just thought of something I need to look up.
That's right.
But it's being intentional. It's just finding these little moments where you can separate, and it's like meditative, where you can be completely free of all of the distractions, and you can get some work done, like some inner work and some visualizations, and come up with some creative ideas.
Absolutely.
Driving is such a cool opportunity.
It really is such a subconscious task. Mm-hmm. You don't have to be, I don't know, if you're a new driver, maybe don't take my advice, but like, it's one of those things that you've done it so many times. Even if someone were to cut in front of you, you would have that subconscious reaction to be able to take care of it. So it kind of frees up your conscious mind to be able to think about these things, right?
100%. And
for me, planning and kind of meditating and visualizing, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Once you kind of build that, this is what I want, being able to do a walkthrough of your dream home in your imagination, it's thrilling, being able to like feel the feelings of walking through there for the first time after you bought the home. Mm-hmm. Just it gives you goosebumps. And after a while, like when I first started doing it, it was kind of hard. It's hard to tap into that part of your imagination and focus your consciousness to imagining these things that don't exist yet. But once you get to that point where it kind of becomes a subconscious task, because we're always thinking, we're always imagining. So, if you can refocus your consciousness to think about these other things and to think about your future and to think about planning your future and to think about positive things instead of just subconsciously falling into negative thoughts.
Yes.
When you're
100%
driving around.
So that was one of the important shifts for me when I finally started doing some halfway smart things with my life. It was like this epiphany about all of the time that I spent thinking about negativity and my circumstances and the music that I was listening to, all of this influence that I had that I just didn't realize the impact that it was having on me. And then it was like this light bulb went off. Somebody said something in just the right way at the right time when I was able to recognize what I was doing to myself. And just like anything, it's like a muscle. You have to develop it.
Absolutely.
Like you got to develop the ability to tune that shit out. Because sometimes it's loud and it still happens, even if you've developed the muscle. Like there's still going to be questions and self-sabotage and uncertainty and negativity that comes in from all different angles.
Absolutely.
But you just get better at tuning it out, just like you're turning the volume down. And you can have these habits in place to replace those things. So you're thinking about positivity and growth and the lesson that I'm going to learn from this and all the benefits that all of these opportunities are creating for me.
Absolutely.
So why don't we finish with that? You want to do something special with your life? All of the information is out there for you.
Yep.
There's so many books. I could name off so many books that have impacted my life. We talked about a handful of them here. If you want to do something special, just go start applying these very basic success principles and start small and just start implementing them into your life. Write your goals down once a week and let it start to become a habit until it becomes a habit that you're doing every single day. The visualizations, the way that you think about things, cutting out all the negative influences in your life from people to news to music. Like I don't listen to music.
Right.
Very rarely do I listen to music. If my wife's listening to something and it's like it got any negative tone, she gets pissed, but I'm like, I don't want to listen to this.
That's right.
This is too negative for me.
That's right.
It's all about protecting your environment and just practicing these simple success principles and just doing it consistently for long enough that it can start to make an impact.
Agreed.
That's what it's all about.
I agree, man. It's all out there. Don't try to reinvent the wheel. The wheel's already been invented. Just see how other people have done it and piggyback off of that because it works.
There's no excuse.
Yep. No excuses. That's right.
Thank y'all for checking in to another episode of Just Real Quick. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe and follow and share this with somebody who you think could benefit. And follow my guy, Drayk, on social media. He's got an incredible story and he's just barely getting started. And until next time, thank you guys for checking in.